Good morning.
Morning, everybody. How are you? Good morning. Good morning.
How
How's
are we?
life?
Morning, everyone. Can we first and foremost say, where is she? Where are they? They. Where are they?
Good
Oh,
morning on a podcast. Nice to know that you're there. And welcome. If this is your first time to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We're here Monday to Fridays with Coffee Moaning. And on a Saturday morning, this one here does the Saturday papers. And that is because I'm not with him, because I'm over here in the kitchen prepping with my sister for the Curly Cooks of Croydon, which is our live cookery show that goes out every Saturday as well.
and can we send all of our prayers, hope, support, thoughts to Omarjan Zadran, who is currently out trying to supply humanitarian aid to the innocents of Gaza.
Omar Jan, when Mark read me out your messages this morning, I did actually cry. We're just so honoured that you follow us. We're so excited that you do and that you get something from these coffee moanings, and please keep sending us your news because we need it. We need your news.
And also, I mean, obviously, yes, you were talking about Jordan. Nadia, for anyone who doesn't know, Nadia's parents are in Jordan, and you know things are ratcheting up as Jordan essentially is going through all of their peace accords with Israel, and in fact, I think the foreign minister is really calling out the Israeli policy of destruction, if you like, in Gaza for what it looks like, which is mass destruction. So I think this is going to be a curious one. We're not going to jump on this. We've got aspects of this to talk about towards the end, because obviously the Gaza-Israel situation, there's a 2-day extension to the pause in hostilities as Hamas are offering to release further hostages in exchange for other hostages from Israeli prisons, because let's not forget, many of the people that are being released are women and children. I think it's one of the only countries in the world, is it Israel, that charges children under a certain age or in prisons?
Well, and in a military court.
Oh, in a military court, that's right, yeah. For throwing stones, is that right? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carries a maximum sentence of 20 years.
Right. Okay. And this is a nuclear country, right?
So if a child throws a stone, they are tried in a military court. They could potentially get 20 years in prison.
A child with a stone.
Stones, yeah.
Oh, right. God, it really is David and Goliath, isn't it? They said it's just Goliath.
20 odd years ago, I've told some of you before about this. I did a play that was written by an Israeli Jew, and she didn't want her child to go into the IDF. And she wrote this play, and it was the play all around how heavily armed Israel was compared to the fact that the Palestinians use stones. They get this brilliant target with stones, because that's how they fought.
Well, let's not forget, they don't just throw stones.
No. This was the play. This was the play.
No,
the play was about people throwing stones in, and how she didn't want her young son to go into the IDF. And it's just so. Well, maybe it was 30. I think it was 30 years ago. God, Mark, it's even more. That's how old I am. It's probably 40 years ago I did that play. Yeah. Wow. Do you remember so we're going to talk about the Gaza situation at the end of Coffee Moaning, because we know some people like to check out before we talk about that.
But on that, just briefly, we can say, let's just pause and just think and feel for those Israeli families and for those Palestinian families who are receiving members of their family back in the next 24 hours, and then tomorrow too. So that's all good.
On both sides, can you even imagine, the waiting, not knowing? Because on both sides, nobody knows who's coming out. Absolutely. And that is just torturous. I just can't imagine what that's like. Absolutely. So we're thinking of both sides on that today, as we are every day.
Now, in terms of what we're going to talk about today, I've set the agenda. We're going to be talking about Harry and Meghan's, the new book about Harry and Meghan. Have we got the stomach for any more? But we've got the 8 biggest takeouts from this book, which is nice, because it means you don't have to buy it and read it.
Is it just me, or does the author look like the strangest of people?
He looks about 10.
I know.
He's 40.
He's not 40.
Yes. I mean, this is the most shocking. Anyway, let's pause. That's one thing. I want to talk about Rishi on a Rishi Sunak. I am building a collection of ever more interesting photographs of Rishi in odd circumstances, whether it be with a hammer, whether it be twerking in front of a Nissan alongside Jeremy Hunt, or whether it be him taking apart the marbles. Anyway, Rishi Sunak's having a row with Greece. Natasha, Christos, what do you think of this? About the Elgin marbles. He doesn't want to play marbles. Rishi Sunak, David Walliams gets an apology and a huge payout. And we're also going to be talking about whether man flu is real. Because
God, he's loving this. Lee, I always forget that Rishi exists until he's mentioned. Oh my God, sometimes I just love how much you put into words a thought that I've had that I didn't know I had.
It's amazing.
That's what you do, Lee.
Lee, can you...
He's my friend that does that for me. He shows me thoughts I had that I didn't know I had.
I wasn't blowing my nose.
And it's like, how did you have that thought? That's my thought.
Right. No, he has the thoughts you wish you had.
No.
Is that right?
Anyway, I think I'm probably going to be the only one who knows what I mean there.
No, I think we all know what I mean. But Lee, please pass comment on his trousers. Is this a thing? Is this a Shoreditch thing? Why? Can I just also ask, why do men wear ever tightening, tapering trousers?
Lee's a fashion queen. He'll know.
Does Lee wears tight tapering trousers?
He does.
Why is that, Lee? I need to know.
Have you seen him in them?
I've seen him in a lot of different trousers.
Very cute.
Oh, he looks great, but you have to.
And he looks very cute in a very short, don't you, Lee?
Very short. Yes.
Very short.
Ellen says, yes, man flu exists because I get it. Okay, so let's start with this new book, shall we? So this new book, it's called is it called Endgame? Yeah, I thought it was like a new section of the Avengers, and his name is Omid Scobie. That's the name of the author. It's been described as a controversial book. And it promises to detail the turmoil. It talks about the letter, apparently the email or the message that Meghan sent to the royal family, and apparently it names the two people, doesn't it? That referred to, I think, the children's colour, skin colour. But I have here a breakdown of some of the most interesting aspects of the book.
He doesn't name them. He just says he knows.
No, he just knows them. In fact, what seems to be coming out about this book is it tells us absolutely nothing new.
But he's going to sell loads of them.
His main source material is the Oprah interview. Apparently.
No, but the rumours are strong that they know each other, aren't they?
I don't know. Is the force strong with this one?
Well, the rumours are strong.
The rumours are strong. With who?
That he knows them.
All right. Okay, well, look, here's the top 8 takeouts from the book. Okay, so the first one is 2 royals commented on Archie's skin colour.
To be fair, though, Mark, all royal biographers are the same, aren't they?
What?
Well, it's just
have you noticed
gathering of information that they've heard from other people.
Yeah, but just from the Oprah interview.
No, but he hasn't said it's just from the Oprah. He said a source, won't he?
Sources. Say Worcestershire sauce. But can he say Worcestershire sauce?
Well, I did learn, didn't I?
Yeah. Okay, so what do we hear from this? And then you can all tell us what you think, guys. 2 royals commented on Archie's skin colour. Royal author says he knows he knows the names of the 2 people who allegedly asked about his skin colour. He said their names are revealed in letters between Meghan and the King, but he hasn't revealed them in the book, so don't buy it to find out who they are.
I'm going to say something controversial here.
Yeah.
I don't understand the total furore around that, because it's like me, my dad is Arabic, he's dark, my mum is redheaded. Well, she is redheaded. I don't actually know what colour hair she is. My sister is blonde. And there's always conversation in the family with what kind of skin colour people are going to have. It is quite a normal question.
Is it?
It all depends on the tone. It all depends on the tone. So if the tone is, oh God, what colour they, then of course that is horrendous. It's racist. But I think that, like my sister has blue eyes, and I'm like my dad. I'm so Arab, and it's so weird.
I hear what you're saying, but can I just push back on that a little bit? Because I think it would be totally understandable, say, perhaps if you're the Arabic side of your family had that conversation, but for the white English side of the family to have that conversation, I think the feeling I get coming from a white family of a certain generation and era and ilk, and let's assume that the royal family is a manifestation of that too. I think any discussion of skin colour within that camp is gonna be along a different sort of.
But I hear you. But I don't think we can just assume that. I don't think we can. I don't think we can just assume every royal member of the royal family is racist.
No, I agree.
And I think that, and you know me, I mean, I criticise them all the time. I just think sometimes these conversations, they just shouldn't be repeated unless the person is there, because it's about the intention.
Right.
I mean, you could say, your mum could have said to you, "Oh, I wonder I wonder if the baby will be darker, like some of my family are very dark."
Yeah, I get you. And it wouldn't be from a dark place.
She wouldn't have meant a thing other than that. "Oh, I wonder if she'll get your blue eyes or her brown eyes."
Yeah, and we do talk about it within your own sort of skin. I mean, like,
and
for example,
course, these things are important to always talk about racism, but I just think intention. And if you don't know someone's intention, you haven't heard the tone, and so much hate has been whipped up about this.
My opinion on this is, if you're going to say something at all, say it fully and say it all. Because this rumour mill is what's done more damage. The sort of Chinese whispers and the kind of the hushed tones and the behind an arras.
A couple of my friends who are black have said they literally don't understand. It's a conversation that happens all the time when it's mixed heritage.
Right. Fair dues. Okay, a couple of other things.
So much money has been made out of this.
Okay, a couple of other things to move on through. We're only on topic 1 of 8, and this is topic. Okay, so King Charles apparently blasted Harry as a fool over the Netflix documentary. That doesn't surprise me, nor is it news. The King has warned royals not to trust Harry. Scobie says the King sent a message around warning royals they were not to trust him in the wake of Spare, the book. That's a pretty safe assumption. William, power hungry and desperate for the throne.
Now, I think these two knocks on William and Kate.
Well, he says that Kate's being treated like an infant. She's infantilized. That's what he says.
And he also says that she's cold, and that every time Meghan's name is mentioned, she does this sort of laugh. So I mean, none of us know what William and Kate like. We haven't got a blooming clue.
I do.
But I like them. I see them when they're talking to people. I think but they're just people.
But they fart and shit like the rest of us.
Yeah. You know? And I do think he's made a big mistake here, because I think
what
most people lean towards William, don't they?
Oh my God!
The
everyone
majority love William and think that he's had a really hard time with
Harry.
With his loose mouth,
with the loose cannon. Well, apparently,
I actually like.
There's a couple of other things here as well, where apparently there's a growing rift between William and the King. So all things aren't great there. I think the idea in the book is that Harry was punished. Harry was really punished and given warning that if he was to in any way sort of examine, push, or inquire any further about the way in which William, he feels, was manipulating the press. I think we have to understand what was interesting, I think, from all of the documentaries, and it doesn't come as a surprise, and to any sort of royal correspondents or people in the media, it isn't a surprise that all the different houses, Clarence House, this house, that house, they do all have their own press teams. They do all have their own, and they are all briefing against each other.
It's business.
In a sense. Yeah,
it's like if you had a big cast of different actors, they will all have their own PR team. They will all be, whether they like each other or they don't like each other, their PR teams will be, there'll be machinations going on behind the scenes so that they get the most press. It's kind of like that, showbiz.
Yeah. And he also talks about the way in which the press and everyone and the royal family and all of us essentially infantilise Kate. Like, in fact, if Kate sharted across a nursery wall, it wouldn't be reported in that way. Do you know what I mean? They just wouldn't, they'd give her a free pass. And I think they do.
Infantilise.
Well, yeah, if you think about it, everything she does is puppy eyes and gooey and lovely, Kate. And that's the coverage.
Well,
and that's
I refer back to showbiz. There are some people that constantly and over decades have given a perfect image, and so they get rewarded for that because there's nothing that anybody can have a go at. So whether she's an absolute monster behind the scenes or whether she's an absolute darling, she's played the game right. So that's what you get. That's what you receive. It's a game.
Theresa Hutchins says, "Does William watch The Lion King with the kids and sing, 'Oh, I just can't wait to be king'?" What a boring book, says Zoe.
Let's ask Omid. So boring.
Why don't we get Omid on and say to him, "What is new in your book?"
Yeah. Why don't we just move on? He's boring me.
In fact, one of the interviews with him talked more about how much he enjoyed his time at Heat magazine. It's a weird. How has this even got purchased?
We've given him too much time.
Yeah,
already.
let's get off it. Okay, let's go to Rishi and his desire to blame. This is a curious story. What do we all think about when I say Elgin Marbles? What do you think on that? I
just know we've nicked them, haven't we? And we need to give them back.
Yeah, they were part of the Parthenon. I was always disappointed. I was always disappointed that they weren't marbles, weren't you?
I came from
Didn't you feel that?
from full Croydon. Didn't we nick them?
Yeah, but didn't you feel that?
Huh?
The first time I was told what the marbles were, I
thought,
Are you
seriously fucking asking me to remember the first time I heard about the Elgin marbles when I can't remember my daughter's birthday?
But aren't you disappointed, nevertheless? Whenever you found out, maybe last week, I wanted them to be marbles.
Oh.
What are they?
Oh, if I go back, I probably did think they were marbles.
Describe them.
Aren't they statues?
Well done, yeah, they are. Because they made a marble. But I so wanted a game. Anyway.
I was waiting for a kitchen worktop.
You're not going to believe this. So Rishi had a meeting with the Greek Prime Minister, right? And part of the deal with the meeting was, don't mention the marbles. Like, you know, like,
I'm not coming if you bring up the marbles, because I'm not giving them back. Oh my God, he's such a little twerp.
So the Prime Minister mentions the marbles and Rishi cancels the meeting.
No! Shut the front door.
Yeah, he's thrown a strop. So Downing Street believed it had assurances from the Greek government that the Prime Minister wouldn't raise the subject of the Parthenon sculptures, as they're now being called, the Elgin marbles. But apparently he did.
Why don't we just give them back?
Number 10 then cancelled Rishi Sunak's meeting.
This
the
is
Greek Prime Minister's like, I can't understand why he doesn't want to play marbles.
Why don't we just give them back if they're not ours?
Well, it's a good question. What do you think, guys? Should we give them back?
Absolutely.
We got them in a period of colonial kind of theft. Let's face it. If you took everything out of the British Museum that we got from colonial theft, there'd be nothing left.
I suppose the problem is they think if we start there, all we're ever going to be doing is giving back stuff.
Nothing we own is ours. Exactly. I mean, we're fucked, really. Apart from Stonehenge, and no one wants it. It's fucking boring, isn't it?
It's
the most
when you actually go past
shit show I've ever been to.
No, but what I want to do is I want to walk up to it and I want to hug a stone, because then I think I'll get something.
I did that when I was a child. It's not all it's cracked up to be, I promise you. I fell off it and I hurt my chin. It was really horrible. It's just a load of bullshit. Who thinks
when Rishi storms out, he trips a bit on the carpet? I do.
Well, he certainly doesn't trip over his...
I think he's a carpet tripper.
Do you? Mm. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It must be cold being Rishi Sunak's shin, don't you think? His trousers are always so high. Okay, Britain's Got Talent. Let's move on. Britain's Got Talent. David Walliams obviously took Fremantle to court for lost earnings over his X-rated hot mic transcript leak. This was him being sort of rude and horrible about members of the audience. And you didn't 100% agree on this. Anyway, he's managed to...
So he had his microphone off.
Yeah.
Microphone on. Outside of the studio, and he's chatting to his friends, and he says things that aren't nice.
Well, he says the transcript showed that him calling an elderly contestant a cunt as they left the stage, while he said another was like a boring girl that thinks you want to fuck them, but you don't. Right. So this isn't about whether what he said was right or wrong. He apologised for that. He said it was inappropriate and it was wrong, and he lost his job, and he has sued, or he's sought damages from the producers and an apology, and he's got an apology, and he's also secured at least $1 million, but no more than 10 million, because he went in for 10 million, and it's a 7-figure sum.
I always get stuck on 7.
Yeah,
but okay, so David Walliams, I do not like him one bit, not one bit. Wow. There is nothing I like about David Walliams, and I don't like what I hear about him and all of this sort of stuff, but I am actually pleased about this ruling because, you know, first of all, though, professionally, you are always supposed to think you're never alone with a microphone. You're never supposed to say, you're never alone with a microphone. And people will say it. You'll be saying something and people go, you're never alone with a microphone. But, you know, gallows humour, now I don't know whether this was gallows humour or not, is something very, very showbiz, a bit like doctors. Doctors can be very gallows humour. I think if doctors were caught with microphones on, there'd be many that would be losing their jobs. But it's a way of dealing with it. And I think gallows humour is something, why is it not broadcast? Because it's unsavoury, and because it could be misconstrued, and because it could offend. So if something is published, I didn't read, because what is different about any other production I've ever heard, every single thing that is said was written down.
It is odd.
That is, I'm telling you, that is weird.
That is weird, isn't it?
That is really weird. Everybody I know in the business went, Fremantle, write down every word of it, because it feels like that's being recorded for some other reason. So I think it's absolutely right, the ruling. Imagine if you got into your house and you've said something and somebody bloody
Well, and
writes
Alexa
it
has
down.
been recording the whole bloody thing.
Yeah, which is going to happen.
It's going to be bloody
Carol
awful.
McGiffin was right.
Hey, who said that?
She was always like, you're all mad having all these gadgets and all these things. And the more I think about it, the more I think she was right, actually.
Right. So you were at all worried about that thing you revealed about Kay? What she likes to do of an evening? That's on a hot mic.
We call it a hot mic.
It was a hot mic.
But it still makes me laugh that people still do this over their mics. So that is not going to stop your mic picking up what
It's not going to stop it being hot.
Mm.
Would you describe your osteopath as a hot mic?
Mm-hmm.
No, just magic mic.
My osteopath's hot mic. I call him magic mic because he's so good.
I'm getting slightly concerned. You're spending more and more time with magic mic.
As I get older, I will.
What do you need?
Because you need to keep your body clicked in and clunked out.
Yeah, whenever I try to click you in and clunk you out, I'm only there for a minute. You spend 45 minutes with him.
Darling.
What?
Are you really only there for a minute?
Maybe
you need to question yourself.
What are you saying?
I don't know. You started it.
Oh, pass the hankies, fellas. Okay, so man flu. I didn't mean pass the hankies like that. I meant blowing your nose.
Oh. Just move on, Mark.
So is man flu real, guys? Is this a thing? Is it real? Is it all in our imagination? When a woman gets ill, she's sort of, she's stoic. She pushes on. She carries on. And when my Google Home definitely listens to me. The other day I heard it yawn.
This is Lee.
I think Rishi needs to just wear shorts. Then he'd look like a school kid, wouldn't he, with a flat
He already
cap?
does.
Oh, he really does. Apple crumb. So man flu, is it a thing? Nat?
Well, we all know about man flu, don't we? We all know. I mean, I grew up with the most hypochondriacal father on the planet. As I was telling you last week, wasn't I? One day he came downstairs and said he had PMT.
He's amazing.
When we were young, because he'd heard us all talking about it, suddenly he had PMT. So I grew up with that. My dad's flu was like no other flu. Every time he was ill, it was flu. And then I have this incredibly stoic mother. She cut her finger off, and because she was waiting too long for the anaesthetic, she told me just to stitch it back on without the anaesthetic.
I thought she said she didn't need it. She said I sent it back.
Well, I just
don't
didn't
need
there
it.
for
It's fine.
ages. So
It's got
just
in the
sew
way.
it up. So my mum is incredibly stoic. And so, we try, that's our sort of thing. I'm fine.
Okay.
But then, how often do we marry somebody that has so many of our father's traits?
Right.
You have a lot of my father's traits.
I do. Yeah.
It's really weird. And apparently, I remember our one of our marriage guidance counsellors saying to us that often in a relationship, we're trying to fix what we couldn't fix in our parents' relationship.
Maybe you don't like lamb. That's why you're with me. And you could never say it to your dad.
Yeah, I could never say that.
He loves lamb.
Don't say to an Arab, you don't like lamb. You don't like lamb? What is wrong with you? I don't like lamb.
There's some serious thought to this, though. Man flu,
I have always, because of that, just said it's man flu.
But
there is now... No, because I haven't finished what I was fucking saying.
No, I'm saying. I'm trying in.
But so now, unfortunately, I have been proved wrong on the flu.
Well, have you or have you? We're going to float some scientific details past you guys, and you can let me know. I think Zoe Agnew is a good example of someone, regardless of what the science says, Zoe is never going to be moved from the idea that when a man is ill, he's not really ill. I don't think anything.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Even if your leg is off, it's still man flu, and I think that's.
But what I found, Zoe, is when they are really ill, they will not go to a doctor. They will not do anything. It's really strange. When there's actually something to worry about, they won't get it seen to.
Yeah, leap it. You don't like lamb?
You don't like lamb?
And Cambo says, my mum recently had flu, and my mother literally cleaned her whole house with the flu, whereas my dad is practically on a brick.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is a piece. Jenna Hope is a woman, apparently, I think she's an expert that pops up on This Morning every now and then. She helps companies to hone the health of their workforces. And she's just written a piece in The Times about how actually, or no, she hasn't written, she's been interviewed for a piece in The Times about how actually there could be some truth to this. Could be some truth to the idea being this, that if me and you get the same virus, it has a much more damaging effect, or it's much more difficult for me to deal with it than it is you.
But pre-menopause, because it's the estrogen
that
helps us have a better immune system, and the progesterone So hang on, what's the actual line? The immune system has a number of hormone receptors throughout the body which respond more favourably to estrogen and progesterone.
I want to read this bit.
Yeah.
We also know, she says, that testosterone plays a role in the suppression of the immune system. So not only do men have more of the hormone that suppresses immunity, they have less of the ones that support it. So in other words, we're so busy being hormonal men, we haven't got time for these freaking flus. So we can't cope with them.
No, but you are more likely to end up in hospital with the flu as a man than you are as a woman. And, it's like my menopause doctor always says, after your menopause, you have a deficiency. That's the way you have to look at it. You have a hormone deficiency,
right,
and it affects so much of your body. So, like, we need estrogen and progesterone. And this one thing I hadn't heard her say, because you hear about all the things that it's so important for.
So testosterone is so good, but actually, so in a sense, the more testosterone presumably women take on board in their maybe hormone replacement therapy or whatever, the more likely they are to have man flu.
Well, no, because you're balancing it with your estrogen and your progesterone. So that is also why, during COVID, there were all these studies going on how much better women that were on HRT were dealing with COVID than women that weren't. So it's quite interesting.
So in essence, but as you read through the article, it becomes quite a depressing read for men, though, because on the one hand, you're told you have the affirmatory sort of news that, oh, yeah, I am feeling worse. I am feeling worse. And it's justified and that's good. And then as you get towards the end of the article, it says basically it's because we're the weaker sex. We die younger. We have insufficient chromosomes and we're shit.
Natasha Tiramos says, but isn't that also because women look after themselves better, which generally they do? So what do you need?
This piece talks about that.
What do you need for a stronger immune system? Really varied diet, lots of colours, exercise, sleep. All those things strengthen your immune system. If you jump up and down, run around now, you're going to produce more white cells.
Can I also say something else that this article draws attention to, which you've been saying for years and I am loath to even throw on the table? It says that actually one of the most damaging things for men that men do a lot is they do intense fitness without any regard for how that sits within the broader perspective. So for example, the thing you always say to me, you jump up and you do stressful workouts. And men are hugely keen on stress workouts.
And what that does is that actually puts stress on your immune system.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, obviously to do high cardio and stuff, but you've got to do the other stuff as well. And when you do it because you're totally exhausted, if you are totally exhausted, what is your body telling you? That I think men don't listen to their bodies in the way that women do.
Okay, hang on.
Like, say I was booked to go to the gym and I'm absolutely going, and I wake up and I feel totally exhausted. I'm going to say to myself, well, no, I'll be better off doing yoga than doing
weird.
gym.
But do you know what I'm going to do? Force myself.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go, you see. Listen to my body. Just put your head here. Listen, you'll hear.
Your heart goes boom, bang, a bang, when I am near.
Can I listen
boom,
to you? Let me just listen to yours.
Boom, bang, loud in my ear. Pounding away, won't you be mine? Boom, bang, all the time. It's such a lovely feeling.
Can I have a listen to your body?
Mark Thompson's got a stiff neck.
Sorry about that. Just had to quickly do that. A couple of other bits and bobs that I want to talk about. Rishi Sunak says every child in Britain could soon have a robot as a teacher.
This makes me laugh so much. I had to send this to my sister this morning because she only calls him the robot. She never calls him Rishi Sunak. She never calls him the Prime Minister. She just calls him the robot.
I wish I'd saved this image because he's looking at a small cube of ice as if it's something quite astonishing.
As our daughter left the house today, she went, and have you seen him use a hammer?
Have you seen him use a hammer? I just want to say, did you want to add to that, or what are you doing?
No, I was just seeing if Dina came back to me on the Rishi story.
So this is seriously Rishi saying the holy grail of education policy could give disadvantaged pupils a robot to teach them. But the problem here is who programs the robot? Let's hope it's not Rishi. So AI could be teaching the kids. I just want to give a quick shout out to Paul Watson. We don't normally do this. Paul Watson, fly-on-the-wall documentary filmmaker, known as, they say, the godfather of reality TV, has died. And I filmed with him. He offered me my first job at the ITV. Yeah, I interviewed him and we did a 3-hour, I've got it in the loft, did a 2.5-hour chat with him about fly-on-the-wall documentary filmmaking. And he offered me a job with James Hunt up in Manchester. And I couldn't get up to Manchester. Yeah, and he was absolutely lovely. He made The Family. He was
I
the,
loved
he,
that.
in 1974.
I loved that. That was the beginning
Yeah.
of my love of like documentary, reality, proper documentary.
And he was a good example of, in fact, we're working on a couple of projects. He was a good example. I remember one of the things he said to me that was stuck with me for years was he said the problem with filmmaking and documentary increasingly in television is the one important ingredient that makes great documentary great, and this was true of another great fly-on-the-wall documentary filmmaker, Frederick Wiseman, who did that film, Juvenile Court, and he did films in prisons, is he said you need to give them time. I'm thinking of The Half that we did. And he said it's a component that producers and commissioners and, the people who kind of fund these things don't give documentaries, is time.
Yeah.
You need to spend time. And that's why so much of our documentary content has become something which is called, sort of controlled reality or, factual reality, factual entertainment.
So you don't want to bed in.
You don't want to bed in. And what they're trying to do is create artificial scenarios where real things happen, which is why reality is kicked off. It's controlling and commodifying and making commercial, real stuff. And he was an absolute kind of trailblazer. And he's just died at the age of 81. I just want to give a shout out because he was a real inspiration.
Oh, that's such a lovely story.
And he was so kind to me. I should
you should get your interview done and give it to his family. They would love it.
And finally, I've got a couple of films to show you because we're on StreamYard. So let's take advantage of it, shall we? Where are we? Over here. I want to show you this. This is the White House, and I just want to show.
Okay, Alison Barber. I urge everyone to see the Rishi parody by Munya Chawawa. So funny. Okay, we will. We love it. We keep saying we need more parody.
We want more satire. More.
What's the name? What?
Munya Chawawa.
Munya
Chihuahua. I just want to show you this because it just I don't know. I mean, okay, it is interesting and it is festive and it is Christmassy, but given sort of America's role in the current sort of Middle Eastern crisis, I don't know, it felt sort of unappetizing. But check this out. This is the White House in America has been decked out for Christmas. I just thought we'd have a little look at Embrace the Inner Child.
Wow.
Unless
you're a Gazan child.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that.
Wow.
Gingerbread White House.
Letters for Santa.
98 Christmas trees across the entire continent. Wow, look at that. That is some Christmas tree. But it did just feel, I don't know, it felt odd.
Well, it was like when we saw him giving out the sweets on Halloween, all those perfectly polished children coming up for the PR thing of him and him handing each individual child a sweet. And you just think, do you not feel sick to your stomach with what's going on as you're faking this loving children? Warmongerer.
Okay. Should we jump out?
Let's jump out.
Okay.
That was weird.
Oh, yeah, what's happening? What's going on?
Well, it's very strange. I don't know.
I don't know. Look.
So weren't we going to fill it? We're not doing Gaza at the end. No,
well, I mean, in terms of the Israel.
So just if you want to leave now, because we always do the Gaza situation at the end, in case those that want to leave can leave. But we just thought we'd do a little roundup of where we are.
So obviously we are seeing some of the youngest hostages being handed back to their families, to Israeli hostages, and we are continuing to see captives released from Israeli jails too. So the exchange is happening, and the pause, as I said earlier, has been prolonged for another 48 hours. I mean, obviously on both sides, behind in a sense, if you like, the actions of hostages being handed over. There's obviously lots of chatter about this is an opportunity for Israel to take a deep breath and get ready for the resurgent push. And there's an opportunity for Hamas to regroup and sort of restock themselves or reorientate themselves in some capacity. So we're in this odd situation where everyone's sort of waiting for the sort of bell to ring and it all to kick off again, which just
seems
so bizarre. And it just strikes me as what really I think is a complete failure of Western leadership is that at this very moment, and let's hope it maybe still happens in 24 hours because we've passed the original agreement. If ever there was a moment that surely it's not contentious to say ceasefire, it's now. We can see that everyone needs it.
I don't understand how they cannot say. Can we see some comments? I don't understand how they. What is the thinking? What do you guys think? What do you think? It's what is now being achieved? What more can be achieved by more pounds and pounds of bombs every day? What are we going to achieve with that? What do you think, guys?
Guys, with all due respect, we're terrified of either here.
Are you? Tell us more, Natasha.
Natasha, can I just also ask you, do you agree? Do you agree? Because I feel that I can't sort of get any direct answer. It's almost like the whole kind of resettlement and illegal settlers aspect of this. Whenever it gets mentioned, people kind of do this. Literally, people who are they go, the illegal settling, what is your take on that, Natasha? Because I hear you that you don't feel safe whether you're in a non-war scenario, let's say, or in a sort of theoretically peaceful, or you're at war. But likewise, I think so many members of the Palestinian community feel like that too.
This is what my father always says, Natasha. He always says, my father is such a smart and huge-hearted man, and he said, how terrifying for the Israelis as well to be living, even though, of course, you are in a much, of course, obviously much safer position. You're not being, bombed continuously 24/7. You've got wonderful hospitals. You've got all of this. But the underlying fear that must just feel like eggshells in your life, I imagine, it's just very different. It's just a very different fear, isn't it? Because it's not just like you're in the sort of the adrenaline of the constancy. Is there such a word of it? But there must just be this feeling of threat. What's going to come back to me?
Here's a question. Okay, here's a question, and I'm asking this from a genuinely
or anyone, not just Natasha, anyone. We don't want to put Natasha on
no, I'm not asking you. No, here's a question for everyone. Okay, answer me this, because Natasha, like you say, because whatever your stance on the illegal settlements, they're two different issues. I don't think they are. I want a two-state solution. Hamas do not. I think the illegal settler aspect and the subjugation of Palestinians, children, and in a sense, the refusal to allow the Palestinians in, say, Gaza to have some form of self-determination. And part of any self-determination of a state, right, correct me if I'm wrong, is the ability to defend yourself. Now, defending yourself is entirely different to committing a horrendous attack like October the 7th. But have we got into a situation here, because Anna Illing, you say the Hamas factor seems to be a huge threat to permanent peace. Have we got into a situation here which is really quite existentially complicated? Because every country in the world, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, everyone says they are entitled to have their own army of sorts, whatever that is, some form of self-defense. Now, parking October the 7th to the side, what do Palestinians in Gaza do? How can they resolve this? And if Israel can answer this as a government, I think we could get to a solution. How can Gazans feel that they have a legitimate form of self-defense against an occupation and a lifestyle that feels oppressive? Because what's happened internationally is we've got to a situation where, Hamas is a prescribed terrorist organization. And the complications are emerging out of the fact that what form of defense, if any, are Gazans allowed? Are they allowed any? And if they're not, what does that mean? Do you see what I mean? And this goes to the heart of the problem, because what we're seeing in the West Bank is the oppression, and they've killed 250 Palestinians in the West Bank, and Hamas aren't there theoretically. I mean, officially Hamas aren't there. So we do have a curious situation where I used the example the other day that if you're a Palestinian family defending your family, say, from the Israeli forces coming in, are you then automatically Hamas because you seek to look after your family? Because that's, Natasha Milchan, so you say have a different government. Have a different government. So in that sense, baked into that idea is is everyone who voted for Hamas makes everyone deserving of what's happening. Does that not mean, therefore, we need to change our perspective on, okay, we don't like, Israel obviously doesn't like Hamas, but maybe one has to ask the question, then why has Hamas got in? Do you know what I mean? If it's about voting in a different government, maybe the conditions that have led to the population of Palestine voting for Hamas That needs to change. And I worry, I really worry, I really do worry. I don't know what you think about this, Natasha, that Benjamin Netanyahu, curiously, and I'm only talking about Netanyahu and his government, curiously, he's almost aggravating the West Bank to have a sort of more extremist response. It's weird. There seems to be a provocation that's happening outside of even this war that's encouraging or has a vested interest almost in the extremism. So it means that Israel can sort of keep, I don't know, it strikes me as unless all this sort of stuff is dealt with, you're never going to get a solution. A, you're never going to get rid of Hamas because it will just change name. B, you've left an entire generation of children without parents and mothers. It's going to radicalize them.
That's where I think it must be really scary. Like if you are, Israeli, because they, you can't wipe out everybody. And what's going to happen? It's like I always say, these huge eyes of very young children, pools of like terror. They're terrified and they have no family. Where are they going to go? Who's going to bring them up? Who's going to look after them? Who's going to get into their heads? That's the thing that scares me.
Cherry D makes a really important point, and I think this is interesting, Natasha. What government should they have? An oppressed people choose resistance. Interesting. Natasha, I'm Russian. I didn't choose Putin, and yet I had to leave my country for a variety of reasons, Israel being my only option. Palestinians need different leaders so a two-state solution can be agreed. We voted in Blair, says DP, but it doesn't mean we also agreed with the war in Iraq. There you go. So I think, it's tricky.
I mean, how many of us agree with whoever we voted in?
Exactly.
I mean, my God.
Look at America and Trump.
Oh. Well, look at the despicable lies and everything that went on with bloody Boris. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, guys.
Humanity, not hatred. And, God, we must never forget the luck of our birthplace. My God, there, but for the grace of God, go any of us into the most horrendous situations. So listen, guys, loads and loads of love. Thank you for hanging out with us today. And we'll see you tomorrow. How about that?